The question is what intensity you're using, what's the number of sets, what's the number of reps, how close are you coming to failure, how much time are you giving yourself between workouts, how much time are you giving yourself between sets.
Right.
All of these things determine how much muscle growth you're going to get or not get, completely separate from the exercises.
Hey everybody, it's me, Wayne, your metal professor. If you're a new subscriber to the channel, no, this is not a heavy metal video, but more of those are on the way. This is the channel's other focus, bodybuilding. What I have for you today is part 2 of my last one-on-one talk with multiple AAU Mr. Universe, Natural Mr. Universe, and Mr. America, and Mr. a whole bunch of other stuff winner, Doug Brignole, who passed away, unfortunately, and far too young, in October of 2022. This talk wasn't originally meant for public consumption. I reached out to Doug in January of 2021 because I was having some problems with my program, and because Doug was a great guy. He talked with me for nearly 2 hours and helped me work through those things. And I rewatched that whole conversation a few months ago and thought, there is stuff in here that somebody besides me might profit from. So there will be at least 2 more parts to this discussion on the way, hopefully soon, but we'll just have to see how things go. But this is part 2 of my last one-on-one talk with Doug Brignole. I hope you like it.
So I was rereading the book, Physics of Resistance Exercise. A lot of exercises call for either, alternating or simultaneous use of the arms, right? And of course, with bicep curls, right? I mean, you have that pulley. I'm gesturing at my ankles like you can see them, right? You've got that pulley beside either ankle and alternate. But like at my gym, I can't get the pulleys this close together. They're like this. And I'm like, well, I don't think that pulling at that angle is particularly safe. So I've been doing one arm at a time.
I'll tell you what you would do.
Please.
The first thing that I would say is, if you cannot curl like this with a resistance that's going like this.
Right.
You can, however, point your arm at the cable and pull away from the pulley.
Oh, okay.
So go ahead and let your arms go in the direction of the pulleys and then just do your regular curl. That's okay. What isn't okay is to have your direction of anatomical motion be not parallel to the direction of resistance.
Right. Yeah, that's where we.
So as long as you create the same anatomical motion that you're doing with the resistance. Now, when you're doing biceps, you can do that, right? But you cannot do that very easily with triceps. Let's say I'm sitting here and the cable, one cable behind me, and the cables are right behind my shoulders, and I'm doing that push down.
Yeah.
With the resistance coming from behind me. Those cables need to be shoulder width.
Right.
If those cables were too wide, there's no way that I can do what I just described to you with curls.
Yeah.
I cannot let my arms go because it has to go from inside to outside. I mean, my shoulder width isn't going to change, right? So I can go like this, or I can go like this. Right, but if I go like this, then I'm going to have the one pulley coming from that side for this arm, one pulley coming from that side for this arm. I can do this. So maybe if those pulleys are a certain width and you can bring them down, but not out,
right?
Then, of course, it would be cumbersome to get into, right? You can if you had someone hand you this cable, someone hands you that cable, and then, of course, the cables are crossing behind you, right?
Yeah.
But you're doing a motion that is parallel to the direction of the cable.
Okay.
Right? Because it's going that way. But you couldn't have them high. You couldn't be doing, but now you're doing something overhead. And overhead is already a more complicated on the shoulder, more complicated on the elbow. So it just doesn't work. What I just described for bicep cable curls, you cannot do with triceps, unfortunately.
Right. Well, what I've been doing is
you can do one arm at a time.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Actually, I've been on one station. I'll do biceps, and then I move over and do triceps, and then back and biceps, and back and triceps.
Well, whether you're doing an exercise alternately, left, right, or all of the reps with your right arm, then all of the reps with your left arm, it's the same.
Okay.
Because in both cases, they're independently loaded. That's the thing that makes the difference is when you're doing it independently loaded and you're not doing simultaneous motion.
Right.
You want to avoid the simultaneous motion if possible, because you don't want to trigger that bilateral deficit.
Sure.
And I explained that, sometimes like if you're trying to do, let's say this,
Uh-huh.
for your pecs, you would
Right.
fall toward the heavier loaded side,
Yeah.
right? And so what you would find is in order to prevent yourself from falling off the bench,
Yeah.
you would have to lighten the load
Mm-hmm.
and or bring it in very close to the center of your body to minimize the side roll of your body.
Sure.
But as you do that, you also diminish the load to the pecs.
Yeah.
So the bilateral deficit that would be triggered by you doing simultaneous dumbbell curls is the lesser of the two evils, right?
Right.
This is going to give you maybe a 5%, 8% maximum reduction of strength potential in each pec. But if you lower the weight in half and shorten the lever by bringing it closer to your side, you're going to get a far greater reduction of pectoral load.
Okay.
So in some cases like that, you have to take, as I said, the lesser of the two evils, the one that gives you the least consequence. And so you do two arms simultaneously then, but only because the alternative is not really feasible.
Okay. Thank you for that. That's exactly one of the questions I wanted to ask you about.
Now, the one thing I wanted to tell you was,
Yeah.
I had somebody post something yesterday and they said, the Brick 20 is not working for me because I tried doing it for 8 sets of body part, 6 days a week, and it was too much. And so I could hear his thought process. What he was thinking was that he thought the Brick 20 had to all be done at one time. And somewhere along the way, someone asked me, what's the ideal number of sets per body part? And I would say, well, I typically do 8. It depends on the body part, by the way, on the muscle group. But like for pecs, I might do 8, or I might do 10, or I might, depending on how I feel that day. But I divide my workout into 4 different groups.
Right.
So if they didn't hear that part, if they only heard, oh, you do 8 sets, and here's the 20 exercises. Oh, okay. So then he was doing it all. And so I can only handle it twice a week. Well, yeah. So I said, well, the reason I bring it up here is because the Brick 20 makes no implication whatsoever about how many sets, how many reps, how much frequency, how much rest. It's just a list of exercises. That's all it is.
Right.
Then you have to take that list of exercises and you have to say, okay, as I say at the end of chapter 11, do I want to do a full body workout? Okay, fine. I'll do these 20 in one workout, but I'll only do 2 or 3 sets for muscle group.
Right.
If I need more than that, then I can split it into 2. And I can do Monday and Tuesday, day 1, day 2, Thursday and Friday, 1 and 2 again, right? But now I can increase my sets to 4, maybe 5 sets, depending on how long you want the workout to be.
Right.
If I need more, then I'm going to have to split it up into 3 groups.
Okay.
And then I'm going to increase my number of sets because there's fewer body parts per day. So I can do more per body part.
Okay.
So I end up doing like maybe 6 sets per muscle group when I'm doing a 3-way split.
Okay.
I'm doing 8 sets of muscle group because I have a 4-way split because I can afford to do more time on each muscle because I'm dividing the muscles into more individual days.
Sure.
And then the next question that comes into it is, okay, well, I know how many sets you're doing, but that's ambiguous, right? It goes back to the kind of the stupid question of like, is 6 sets of 6 better or 8 sets of 8 better? It's like, why do those numbers have to match? Number one, and are you talking about using maximum effort or sub-maximal effort? I mean, the question of how many sets and how many reps cannot be discussed without also talking about intensity.
Intensity, right.
Percentage of maximum effort, proximity to failure, right? And recovery time.
Okay.
So that's the thing that we're going to discuss here today, I think, more than anything else, is it's not fair to say these exercises aren't working because those are just exercises. The question is what intensity you're using, what's the number of sets, what's the number of reps, how close are you coming to failure, how much time are you giving yourself between workouts, how much time are you giving yourself between sets.
Right.
All of these things determine how much muscle growth you're going to get or not get, completely separate from the exercises.
Okay.
When I try to address the subject of physiology, intensity, frequency, reps, sets, all that stuff, it's a very different subject. I mean, it's not mechanics, it's
Right.
not engineering, and it's fairly lengthy, and it varies from person to person, and it's also apt to be more misunderstood by people, because if I say to you, do this set for 90% maximum effort, your interpretation of 90% effort is not going to be the same as the next person's interpretation of 90% effort.
Right.
Right. So that's why when I'm watching a client in person, I can see how much effort they're putting into it. I
Sure.
can see when they start to compromise their form. I can see their facial expressions. I can
Okay.
see how fast the rep is moving. I
Yeah.
know what effort they're using better than they do, because they don't know how to read it, how to judge it. And a lot of people don't. They don't know how to judge it.
Well, that makes so much sense, and that's very much like well, teaching anything, I mean, doing it like I'm teaching a lot of classes like remotely, like via Zoom now because of the whole, apocalypse thing.
Yeah.
And it's just yeah, and for some people it works really well. But boy, it's not a replacement for being in that same room and being able to really read the facial expressions and
Yeah.
see,
You
when
can see if someone's got, deer in the headlights look like.
yeah.
I'm totally confused. The
Yeah.
other thing, the other thing too that's interesting that I've sort of noticed more and more lately is that when I'm working out, uh, I'm listening to what my body is telling me,
Mhm.
and I'm making decisions based on what my body is telling me at this precise moment. So I might be doing a set of dumbbell presses, and it's telling me whether or not I should go a little wider or a little deeper or not so deep or bring my elbows back a little farther. And but that doesn't mean that it's the same every time. The next set, the next day, the next workout for that body part, my body's going to tell me something a little different. So I suppose that's probably the difference between a really gifted athlete. Like if you're a gifted gymnast, right? You're connected to your body. You know exactly when your timing is right and when it's not right. And or a basketball player that's doing, some maneuver, where he's avoiding, this person, but he's got, that's the kind of, I guess you can call it physical intelligence, where you're so connected to your body that you can make adjustments on the spur of the moment that you can never explain to someone,
Mhm.
nor even if you could explain it to them, have them duplicate it. It's impossible.
It's
It's
like
almost like, have you
trying
seen a guitarist, since you're into the music thing, you've
Mm.
seen guitars when they're playing in the middle of a song, they'll change the adjustment on a string.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what did you hear? What did you hear
Yeah.
that made you think that string is a little bit too loose? And you go,
Mhm.
that's the kind of brilliance that the best in the world have. And if you try to get him to explain it to you, I don't think he actually could. But if he did, it wouldn't mean that you're getting the same, that you can register what he's registering the same way he gets it.
Right. Right.
So that's a little bit of the problem. I know exactly when I've done my last rep for a particular set.
Okay.
And other people are just sort of robotically following what's on the paper.
Yeah.
I've got
Stop.
to do this and this and this. And no matter,
Yeah.
I might stop a rep soon. I might go an extra rep or two because I'm listening to what my body is saying. I know what's too much. I know what's not enough. So these are all the factors that, go into, they go into explaining. Just have to turn a fan on. It's very warm here.
Ah,
Um,
that's very different than here. We've been way chilly for days and days.
I don't know
Weeks,
what the
actually.
temperature is, but it's blue skies and sunshine outside, and
Mm.
it's probably 70 something.
Wow. Well, we got a nice uniform gray and 32 here today.
Where are you?
At Missouri,
Okay.
Northwest Missouri,
Okay.
right near that corner of Iowa.
Missouri.
Yeah, just so.
Missouri.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny. The only people that actually say Missouri are politicians trying to sound folksy and get
Oh, right.
reelected.
Yeah, trying to appeal to the locals. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And the locals are like, we're in Missouri, fella. What?
Yeah.